Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of what we now call Lakers Detailed. Me and
Yes.
Raj finally came to a name that made a lot of sense and wasn't exactly like the 5,000 other Laker podcasts that are going on. That was different enough for us to enjoy. Raj, always good to have you. Always great to discuss Lakers basketball with you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Beautiful Monday before the storm, right?
Yes.
Little day before the storm. Weather's nice now in SoCal. It all cleared out. No
Yeah.
more rain. But no, I'm doing good, man. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, I'm chilling, man. I'm excited. We finally have some real basketball with stakes coming up tomorrow night.
Ooh.
It's not necessarily the playoffs, pretty close to it at this point. Like you said, our neck of the woods right now, it's like nice and warm, so that's been really nice. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of good to have more Lakers basketball to talk about. And so for today's subject is really just talking about the play. And I know a lot of folks have done like recaps of the season and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could probably touch that, maybe at the very end of the season, seeing how whatever ends up being the end of this season for us. But I wanted to focus on this playing game that we have going on tomorrow. A lot of news broke today.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a pun. I just mean like that's what happened. Obviously Jane McDaniels, we heard yesterday about him messing up his hand and saw the video of it. And then we also saw the story with Rudy Gobert punching his teammate, and it was a lot of stuff going on with this. They won that game last night as
Somehow.
well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so news broke today, and Rudy Gobert is not playing. I thought he was going to play. What did you think of the news when it came through? Were you like shocked, or what are your thoughts about them suspending him for the playing game?
So it's not like he's not gonna play. He's not on the flight. Like they didn't let
Yeah.
him come to LA. I think that's just insane. Jaden McDaniels, though, you talked about punching the wall. I don't know if you saw the report. Um, they said like he didn't know that like behind the plastic was just concrete. It's a home game though. You know what I mean? Like it's a home game. You've probably
Wow.
walked through that tunnel. Uh, this is his second year there. Probably should know that there's like a hard barricade on the wall. But no, I think it's crazy that they didn't allow him to play. And I think I was wondering. So let's just flip roles here. If Anthony Edwards were to do that,
Yeah.
is he playing on Tuesday? I, I was going through that in my head. I'm like,
The punching thing or the
yeah,
punching
yeah,
the wall
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You got
punching.
to
Of
distinguish,
course,
but
punch to the
yeah.
wall. Jaden McDaniels has no control over his hand
Yeah.
being broken now. But yeah, I'm just wondering because I think that's so fascinating for a Timberwolves team where like this is a do or die game. This is
Yeah.
huge. Like this is and to like suspend your center for a in-house thing. Obviously, the league didn't
Yeah.
even come down on this, so I'm put this to you. Like, Anthony, let's flip the role here. Let's say Anthony Edwards, for some reason, overreacted, as
Yeah.
Gobert put it. Which Gobert's apology was kind of like a more of a like I'm sorry I reacted more than like I'm sorry this occurred. But if if Anthony Edwards were the one to do it, are they suspending Anthony Edwards for this game?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Right.
I think there was like the aftermath of that was a little strange because like they were saying like Kyle Anderson, like dude. Actually, before we even get into that, did you see
Yeah.
that somebody leaked locker room audio, or it was a
Oof.
locker room audio? I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, and I was just like, dude, what is going on here? Like, either people really don't like Rudy, like in the locker room beyond the players, or like everybody needs to be fired, like that works inside that locker room. Because that was like, I was more shocked at that when that came out, because I was just like, who's like the first thing they're doing is whipping out their phone and recording, like Kyle Anderson being pissed at him. But I mean, to answer your question, like, no way. Like, Ant is the star of that team. I would say even more than Cat. So it's like
Oh yeah.
I don't see them doing it more. They must have been okay with it. Like, they're okay with Rudy not even helping them win a playing game. So that should tell you something.
Yeah. That's the interesting part to me is like, would he have played? But no, they have. I don't think I've ever seen Vinay a team just collapse on itself like this, like before a playoffs or a playoff run. Yeah, it's just strange. I mean, the Jaden McDaniels thing, he's lucky this happened because this has kind of gone under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
People are just like, oh yeah, Jaden McDaniels out because he punched the wall. Rudy Gobert punched his teammate,
So
you know,
funny.
so
Yeah,
it kind
so
of has
funny.
gone under the weather. Carl Anthony Towns is questionable for tomorrow
Yeah,
with a strained calf. I'm thinking maybe would they rest him and then just go all in on the Pelicans the OKC game because they'll host that game, right? So they'll have two home games. They'll have a home
yeah.
game, I guess, against Pelicans and OKC. That'd be a huge kind of risk to take. But yeah, it's so strange because now, like when you're game planning for Minnesota, it's totally different, right? So they've lost
Hmm.
Nas Reed, obviously Jaden McDaniels now, and then and Gobert obviously not going to play.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of their team. That's their identity. And now you have to go into that game with a little bit more of like, okay, they're shorthanded, they're wounded, and they're probably just going to play all these energy guys to try to get us. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen something like this where a team just completely shoots itself in the left foot and then shoots itself in the right foot. They just can't even walk. They're kind of limping to this playing game now.
Yeah, it's I don't think I've seen something like this. Just like these kind of like very strange events happening. Like,
Yeah,
the Clippers game, you had Plumlee and Bones Island getting each other's faces, but like you see people getting each other's faces all the time, like on the not
yeah,
all the time, but you could see it happen on the basketball court. So it's not anything that's too crazy. But I'm the McDaniels thing is just like it's just funny because it just happened. Like I remember Amari Stoudemire a few years back, 10 years ago, maybe even like when
mm,
he punched the fire extinguisher holder
yes,
thing in the hallway and he broke the glass and he cut his hand and he had to miss a playoff game because of it. He was back for the very next game, but it was just like one of those things. It was just like, dude, what are you doing? Like I understand game, but like just kick a thermos or kick
yeah,
somebody, like take somebody's poster and rip it in half. You know what I mean? Like throw something, but don't punch a wall or whatever. But it's just that it kind of reminds me of that moment. But you're right. Like Gobert is a big part of what they do defensively. At least he's a big he's a serious rim protector and stuff like that. He finishes plays. One of the reasons that Wolves fans will tell you they were happy that they got Mike Conley and that they were okay with moving off of D'Angelo Russell was because Mike Conley would like know how to kind of feed Gobert and stuff like that from their time on the Jazz.
yeah,
And like even the game that we played against him, like Conley and Gobert were like hurting us pretty bad
hmm,
with their pick and roll action. And like it ended up being, we ended up winning that game, but defensively he is a big part of what they are. Like they went up 20 at one point, like, and he was playing in that game. Um,
yeah,
and and then McDaniels is another guy, like just defensively, their identity. Like he's probably an all defensive player, not of the year,
oh
but like
yeah,
all defensive team candidate player. Um, he was trying to dunk on LeBron like every time he got the ball. Like LeBron had to like play defense, or Jaden was going to try and score on him as many times as possible. And so like Gobert, not so much on offense, but defensively, it's a big difference for them. But it does kind of change some of like how good they can be offensively. Like with Gobert off the floor, now they may have Cat. Now I'm assuming Cat's going to play. I don't think he's going to. A couple of folks in the chat. Anybody watching, if you guys are watching on Twitter or if you guys are watching on YouTube, you guys can always go ahead and chat if you have questions or just comments. We'll read them out and I'll put them up on here
yeah,
for folks to read. And then I've got Twitter open here too, so if I see anything come through, I'll make sure I ask. But yeah, it's just I expect them to play, and now they're going to probably play more floor spacing offense.
hmm,
And one thing that you and I have been concerned about is, sometimes AD falls into the trap of getting pulled all the way out to the perimeter, and that compromises our entire backline defensively.
yeah,
And so if it's pick and pop action or if it's something else, transition action where he's trailing, like the Lakers have to be ready for that because, we don't want to give Anthony Edwards wide open lanes. We don't want to give really any of their guys wide open lanes because they can fish, even Kyle Anderson, we don't want to give him wide open lanes. So even though they're out defensively and they may be a little bit different, I think it's still a lot of a concern. Like they're deadly just in a different way now that the Lakers have to be prepared for. Well,
Yeah, yeah, they can definitely space you out a little bit more. Obviously, Conley, Cat, the pick and roll game can kind of spread you out. Anthony Edwards probably has a little bit better of a lane. I think they're gonna go small, probably with like Kyle Anderson, more at the power forward spot. But before we, Vinay, get super detailed, I went back into the so obviously the 2-10 start was everywhere in terms of today and everywhere in the news. But we started 0-5, right? So and our fifth loss was actually in Minnesota. So that was actually the fifth loss.
Mhm.
Here was our just for fun. Here was our starters in this game. Austin Reeves actually played. He was healthy. Russell Westbrook also came off the bench. So Reeves, Westbrook, Wenyen Gabriel all came off the bench with Kendrick Nunn. Our starting lineup was so AD sat this game. I'm not sure why. I couldn't really find
The
his
back
injury.
back
The back
issues, I
thing.
think.
Okay,
Yeah, remember he
back
came
issues
into the
early.
season with back issues, and the Lakers
Oh,
fans
right,
were like,
right.
"Hold on, man! Like you just had a whole season." But go ahead. We won't get into that. That's a different gripe.
Yeah, but yeah. So we started at LeBron, Troy Brown, Pat Bev, Lonnie Walker, and Damian Jones. Ran off the floor, by the way. All those in the huge negatives. So Patrick Beverly was our starting small forward.
Yes.
Lonnie Walker is like listed as our 2, and then Troy Brown as our power forward. So just to give like a perspective, and the Wolves were all healthy, by the way. D'Lo
Mhm.
was still in their starting lineup. So D'Lo, McDaniels, Towns, Gobert, and Edwards. And I'm just thinking how different like those two teams have kind of gone now in terms of where they're seen and what they are. So I think it was interesting going back last year as well. I think Towns did the he was looking around when Russ airball, like like very very
Right.
braggadocious type of play and stuff like that. But yeah, that was interesting to kind of look back now. Just and even the last game, it's hard to scout with who they have out now. But I just think it's fascinating to look back in terms of like who was starting and Reeves coming off the bench with Russ, and those dudes are actually positives in that game.
Yeah, that was
But
that was that was a stretch where I would say like the first 20 games or 25 games of the season, and we'll cover this when we do like the full recap. Like there was a
yeah,
point in the season where our starting lineup was getting blasted like every like as soon as like LeBron sat or something like that, like our starting or
yeah,
at some point like our starting lineup would be really bad, and then like Russ and Reeves would come in and they would just like come roaring back and then give our thing back, and then that's when I think a lot of the beefing increased between the Russ folk and the Braun folk. Like, hey, what's going on here? But anyways, that was yeah, we got our butts kicked that game
yeah.
pretty badly. Uh, you know, but there's almost nothing we can take from it because
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
completely different team now. Um, but see that's the thing. Even the very last game that we played, the most recent game that we played against them, that was like a 20-point comeback, and we were bad for a lot of that game up until they went on like a really cold shooting spot. Like I think they started chucking threes. Jordan McLaughlin missed like three
hmm
three wide open threes in a row, which I'm sure he probably won't do tomorrow if he gets that opportunity. Kyle Anderson was missing wide open layups like right in front of the rim and stuff like that. Granted, we were AD was there doing work too, but like it was just like I don't know what to expect honestly. Like I'm just like I expect us to win, but
Yeah.
how are we going to win? Like the line I think for tomorrow's game is like -7.5, and I'm just like I don't see it, man. Like we're gonna win this game, but I don't know if it's gonna be a blowout or what it's gonna. You know what I mean? Like what it's gonna be. I feel
Yeah.
like it's gonna be more of a nail biter than we think. And so, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because obviously, like our last 4 games that we played outside of the Clippers one has basically been ones where we just kind of slept through it, right? We played
Mhm.
Utah twice, right, and then where we closed. Yeah, we played with Utah again, and then that Phoenix team who didn't play anybody, right? And you had the Clipper game in between that, which we got smoked for, and they blamed the scheduling. So like we haven't played a serious basketball game in like a week, like in terms of like where we were competitive in it. So I think it's interesting going into tomorrow and seeing how they'll respond. I'm hoping, Renee, like this is the end of unserious basketball. Like I hope that was the end of it. I think we had the guys sleepwalking. No one wanted to defend yesterday, but yeah, they can't take Minnesota lightly, and you need to win tomorrow. Like you can't wait and have a do or die game against Brandon Ingram or Shea Alexander. Like that's a really tough spot to be in. And then obviously you also don't get the days off. So yeah, I think it's interesting who he's gonna go with. I think the Rui Vando thing is gonna be interesting to go into. But yeah, like I think the starters are gonna stay the same. I'm not sure. I hope they come out with some energy tomorrow, but it's been a long time since we played some real basketball, and I think that switch going from like let's sleepwalk into you have to be serious now. I don't think that turns on right away. I think it takes some time for that light to come on. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like that whole thing about like there being a switch and stuff like that is just something that it was coined originally by I think the '01 Lakers or the 2000 Lakers, the
Right.
year that we won the second time, not the third year, but the second
hmm
year because we were like a bottom we were like a middle of the pack defense, or we might have been a bad defense at the time. And then all of a sudden we were just beating the shit out of everybody like in the playoffs defensively. And that's where that term flip the switch comes from, because
Yeah.
Shaq and Kobe did it, because Shaq notoriously used to not take regular season seriously when it came to like his regimen and staying in shape and all that sort of stuff. And so like that was something that I think would just apply then. Like I don't see people do, like I know Braun does the thing where he's like, you know, 0 dark 30 or whatever it is that he does. And I'm sure he gets locked in mentally when it comes to the playoffs or the play in. But like I remember the last time we were in a play-in situation against the Warriors, that game came down to the wire. Like that wasn't a game that was, and that was a bad Warriors team. That was the one that had, I think, Kelly Oubre. That's the one that had Mark Mulder. Like Damian Lee was playing big minutes, and we nearly lost that game. Yeah, JTA, we nearly lost that game too as well, because it turned into we're going to slow it down, and it's going to be possession by possession. We're not going to give you turnovers. We're not going to give you extra possessions. So you're not going to get to do what like just free-flowing Lakers basketball in transition. And I think tomorrow is going to be that sort of game. Obviously, we would hope that we can lock it down defensively. We certainly have the talent to do that. But, like, we can't come out slow. You know what I mean? Like, I can already tell, like, the moment we go down, like, 5 points, everybody's going to be like, this is too much.
Panicking.
And, yeah, and I agree with you. Like, obviously there's a lot of benefits of us winning this game, the extra days of rest and stuff like that, which will always help the guys. More practice days for them too as well.
Yeah.
But like they really can't. Like it's maybe we're being, I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like I'm being a little too like concerned. Yeah, too pessimistic about it. Like I have full confidence that we're going to win the game. I just don't have full confidence that we'll have 48 minutes of control of this game, which is what we really should. Like, I need to see that at some point. And I get these other teams are really good, but we also have the best two players, the guys that should be the best two players on the floor tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't see Anthony Davis unless it's like the last 2 minutes of an 8-minute shift he's about to play. Like, I can't see him be very, like, I don't want to see him be passive. You know what I mean? From the start of the game and trying to facilitate guys, unless obviously he's getting double, triple team. That's different, but I've got to see it, man. Our stars really, really got to set the tone. We can't rely on Austin Reeves or Jared Vanderbilt to give us the energy that we need, or Rui to give us the energy that we need to win that game.
How do you think their defense changes now? So obviously Gobert's not going to play. So I'm guessing they're going to go small. They'll start Kyle Anderson, and so you look at their depth chart, Renee. After their centers after Gobert. So they list Towns as a power forward. It's Luke Garza, who I mean I don't
Luka Garza,
I don't even think he plays for them.
It's Nathan Knight, I think, is who they have as their backup to the back. He's like their third string center, I think.
Third string center. Okay, yeah. So like I think obviously Towns foul trouble will be interesting too if you can kind of get him into it. But like I think their answer is going to be what most teams' answer is, just to send more people, right? To send two at AD. And I think that's a different kind of defensive scheme that they did in Minnesota. If you remember, they weren't sending help as much. AD was able to kind of get going. A lot of one-on-ones against Towns, against Gobert. He was able to score. How do you think their defense, I guess, changes against him? Did they just send two and just like, all right, we're going to make Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, LeBron, whose jumper actually finally turned around after, weeks of being in confidence. But like, where do you see them? Do you think they'll just be like, all right, we're just going to hard double AD? Because I don't think they want Towns living on AD. That's a nightmare for them, especially with the foul trouble. So how do you think their defense adjusts now without their rim protection? Because like you said, their defensive identity is kind of built on his drop back coverage. Those guards can be a little more aggressive. Honestly, Vinay, their defense is built around McDaniels and Gobert. Like
it is.
And Edwards, obviously, who's a great point of attack defender when he wants to be. I just don't think he can do that and carry 25 points a night. Like that's tough for a guy like him. And he turned it out against the Pelicans. But yeah, how do you see their defense, I guess, adjusting?
Yeah, I think you'll probably see a little bit more of. I think the doubles are still going to come, but I think they're going to be like late doubles. So Chris, what's their coach? Chris Finch, right? Is his name?
Chris Finch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like so he's he comes from the Nick Nurse tree of being an asshole and just like taking away your best player defense. So he doesn't do it as deliberately as Nick Nurse does it, but he's still like that's a point of emphasis, right? So like one of the things that they were able to do with Jaden McDaniels is they would play Braun straight up. They didn't have to double Braun because they're like, we'll take our chances with Jaden playing against you straight up, but we won't let AD get off. And then with Gobert there, they could play him straight up, but now obviously it's Cat. So I suspect what will probably have happen is like whoever is guarding Vando is going to be like that late double. And we talked about
Mm,
this like on the watch playback. Like
yeah,
the Lakers have to be prepared for it at this point. Like it's like it's Darvin Ham's rookie season, so it's different. It's not the same coach that we always had, but like AD has to be prepared for it now. Like you have to know that double where that double is coming from, and he can't be surprised by a double coming. And so I think what's going to happen is you'll probably see more help coverage, but it won't be immediate. It'll be like
mm,
how like the Clippers kind of do it sometimes, where they like wait to see if AD puts the ball on the floor, and as soon as he takes that second dribble, they're just on him, like they just run
yeah,
over as quickly as possible as they can. So it's like whether that's going to be the swing thing that we do and find the open shooter, or if it's going to be just kicking it out to the entry pass guy, or whatever it ends up being. Like it needs to like they need to know how they're going to counter that because our offense has never really changed, even
right,
with the new guys. And so I would expect it to still come. They'll take their chances, honestly. Like we talked about it the other day, the last pod.
yeah,
Dennis is going to be back tomorrow. He's not on the injury report. And like Dennis, Braun, it's nice to see him make jump shots the last game, but Dennis, Braun, Vando, AD are not 3-point shooters. None of them are.
yeah,
They've all been terrible this season shooting the three. Like if at any point those guys get on the floor, they're going to be like, okay, shoot the three. Like we dare you to shoot the three. And it's if we make them great, but that's going to be an ongoing strategy until teams figure us out. So I think they're still going to try and take away AD. I think they respect how good he can be. And that second half, like when it was just Cat, like he kind of torched Cat pretty bad
yeah.
in the post. So I think they probably saw that and they're like, yeah, we're not going to be able to play this 1-on-1 because he kind of knows that he can score on him. So I'd expect help for sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And you brought up Dennis. I think a lineup we're gonna see a lot, especially tomorrow and even going forward. And I think we're gonna see that 3 guard lineup: the Dennis, Austin, and D'Lo. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something we're gonna see a lot, especially Minnesota being as downsized as they are now without Jaden McDaniels. I think that's a lineup you'll see a ton tomorrow. I think those 3 with LeBron and AD is probably gonna be your high minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to see if like LeBron treats this as a playoff game. I think we've seen him up his scoring a little bit. I think like if this was a series, he would like pick on Mike Conley, right? He'd be like,
Oh,
okay,
right.
come
Right.
have like Reeves or D'Lo or Dennis come set this ball screen. And I'm picking on Mike Conley every single time. And I'm interested to see if he does that. And yeah, if AD can, so like even with the doubles coming, like there's games where like they send 2 and it doesn't matter. Like he can just
Mm-hmm.
go quick and he can have his jump shot going. Like I think that's stuff that like where AD you can't just get taken out of the game.
Right.
And in a one-off, I'm interested to see if like he's gonna be aggressive in that way. But yeah, I'm so fascinated by tomorrow because this has kind of been what we've been working up to, right? They've had the excuse of like this is not a real game. This is not a real game. We flew in at 3 a.m. from
Right.
Utah, right? So you have all those kind of caveats. Here it is. Like we're here now. Like this is like the do or die. This is the one game you need to win to get in. And I'm interested to see if they treat it that way.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we got in the chat was like, Jelani mentioned like I think this is a game for Bamba. Like we didn't
Ooh,
have I don't think we had Bamba for the Minnesota game
nope.
last time, and certainly with 2 bigs when it was Gobert and Cat on the floor at the same time, they could have possibly given that look. But
Yeah.
Bamba hasn't really gotten minutes even since he's been cleared with his health, which again can be conspiratorial. We could take a guess as to what's happened. We'll just assume for now, at least, that it's just his health is not quite, his ankle's not quite back to where it needs to be, and that's why he's not playing. But what do you think about that? Like, do you think it's something? Is he somebody that we're going to start deploying? Do you think it's just a situation where it's his health? But what do you think about Bamba's lack of play since he's been healthy?
I mean, so last time we did this, we went through like the 10-man rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets tight like really quick. You're up to like 9 guys and you haven't even put a backup center in yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where it gets really tough. Yeah, Bamba played 1 minute against Utah, 6 minutes against the Suns when he came back. I just don't think Darvin's gonna throw Mo Bamba in high leverage games like until he has a little bit of a ramp to go up to. And I think he's gonna just play Wenyen and try to survive those minutes. And if Wenyen can't play, he'll play Rui at the backup center next to LeBron. He's been doing that. I actually like that. We can get into that a little bit. Rui, like we said before, was kind of the MVP of that Minnesota game. Him being able
Mhm.
to like deal physically with Towns, but yeah, I just don't see Bamba entering the rotation unless he's like getting hot from three. But do you see that? I just don't see Bamba in any type of rhythm to go from where he was missing 4 weeks to being like your backup center in pivotal moments. What do you think? Like, do you think he's able to enter the rotation? I can't see it.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with you. I think this is one of those things where like we have to like look beyond just his health and the minutes that he's getting to figure it out. Like they also signed Tristan Thompson recently,
Oh
and
God.
I don't think I honestly like that. Like I don't think they would have signed him with a healthy Mo back already, and Wenyan, and them choosing whether they want to play Wenyan or Mo, both of them being healthy, and for them to still sign Tristan as the 15th signing or 14th signing because we waived Davon Reed, like that kind of gave me pause for a second because like I jokingly said I wouldn't be surprised if he leapfrogged but I leapfrogged both of them in the playoffs. But I was half joking. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens because like all it takes is for Wenyan to have one bad stint, and we know how Ham works. Like you don't get a second shot unless you're one of the guys that he really likes or whatever. And so like I'm not saying that Tristan's going to play, but I wouldn't be shocked if off the strength of him just kind of knowing how LeBron likes to play in those lineups where AD isn't on the floor. I'm not saying he's going to protect the rim, but rebound the ball, offensive. Like he was a good productive offensive rebounder. I don't even know where Tristan's at right now physically. He could be terrible for all we know. But like we signed him for a reason. Like I'm sure we didn't do it out of charity, right? So like there must be some concerns I think that they have when it
Renee,
comes to
there's only two outcomes here. Either we're up by a ton or either we're down by a lot. That should be the only reason Tristan Thompson enters the game. There should be two outcomes. Either it's great or it's terrible.
yeah.
I can't. Tristan Thompson's been on ESPN the last 3 months. He's been on podcasts the last 3 months. I've seen him on every single type of show.
Yeah.
I don't think we're like the genius. Like I'm sure we're not the only call he made. I'm sure there were a bunch of calls around the league. I'm sure he's had workouts. Ours was the only one that was public, but I'm sure
Yeah.
he's had workouts with teams. He's an NBA champion veteran who's 33 years old. Those guys really, you're not off a cliff at 33 years old.
Sure.
Right? That's usually not
Yeah.
what happens. You usually
He's
have
still
some kind.
relatively young. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so if that's the case, if he's relatively young, that means the actual basketball is bad because you usually get the benefit of the doubt. Those type of center. DeAndre Jordan's is a backup center running around the league right now, and
Yeah.
maybe like just think about that. Like I just can't see him like playing. If he's playing, something went terribly, terribly wrong. And I don't think he's in any shape. I think he's more in the just locker room presence type of guy. Vinny, I'm looking up. We worked him out like a month ago. Like we worked him out a while back.
And
So
I knew it when they didn't sign anybody. I was like, they're gonna sign Tristan because it's too quiet, and they're gonna be like, who can we trust? I mean, but we've taken buyout guys via he's clutch,
no,
and
no,
so we got.
yeah,
Let me read you
I
this. Let me read you this comment.
yeah,
This comment from because it won't show up on here, but I have it on my phone. It's from a Twitter user, Consumer. He's
okay.
saying that we employed a literal ESPN analyst on our roster right now. But he's right though. He's like he was on ESPN and he was just on Draymond's podcast making fun of another former LeBron role player teammate about getting a job with asking LeBron to hook him up with a job on the
Mario
roster.
Chalmers. Yep.
It's what I don't know what's happening in this world today, Raj. Like the NBA is getting weirder and weirder, man. But
Very,
players are
very.
punching each other, punching walls.
This is a good. This is a good. By the way, just really quickly, there's no way Tristan Thompson been like I've seen this a lot. They're like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's no way he's better than Wendy Gabriel right now. They just like, there's no way he's better than Wendy Gabriel right now. Like I can't, I won't believe it. But quick segue. So Draymond Green went on his show, right, and
Yeah.
he went on the and he's I think his podcast is actually pretty good. But so he went on and he was like kind of confirmed Kyle Anderson's comments to Rudy Gobert. I'm not gonna repeat the actual terminology here, but he's like, yeah, I kind of agree with that sentiment. This is separate from basketball. I just think like there's like a a thin line, right? Like usually like there's a separation between players and media,
Yeah.
not just in terms of like not just in terms of like how they see the game. It's just like a separation in terms of like we're on this side, you're on that side, and we work together for one common goal, which is to grow the NBA. That's more money that floods in for you and me, right? I get a
Yeah.
percentage. Da 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 da. For me and you, I'm talking in terms of the play in the player's perspective. I just think there's a thin line when you have players name calling other players as a media member
Yeah.
while being in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think that's a thin line. What do you think about that? Because I think
Yeah.
it's funny, it's jokes. Rudy Gobert is gonna be the butt of every joke that is created, but
Mhm.
I think that's interesting. I think there's a very I think there's a thin line there to where you're crossing right there.
Yeah, so I think social media has kind of accelerated this process. Like, I guess his
Mm.
response was because Rudy said something about him. He tweeted something about him
Right, right.
when the whole punch with Jordan Poole happened at the beginning of the season, which is, it is what it is, and obviously that's happened via Twitter or something like that, or Instagram. I don't know what it was, but like the extra step is Draymond going on a pod and doing commentary about it. And I
Yes.
remember where I was talking to some folks last year when he launched the pod, like during the playoffs, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, there's like this weird, it's like a weird space like that we're in. Like, I think you make a nice point. Like, the media is supposed to work in hand with not in hand with the players, but they cover the sport. So ultimately, their goal should be to increase the visibility of the sport because that
Right,
gets them more money. Like, Woj, if Woj doesn't have like the 10 million followers or however many followers he has, he's not getting the money that he gets
right.
from ESPN because of the exposure that he has, and that's because of the relationships he has with front office. Same thing with Shams and all these guys. It's the same model that everybody has. We see Chris Haynes do it now. McMenamin's made a career off of LeBron. Windhorst has. Like, tons of people have done that. But like, I think that the part that's a little crazy about this is when the players get involved. Like, actually, I was in a group chat today and somebody asked the question. So it's really cosmic timing that you're asking this. He said, "What do you think about podcasts? The players doing their podcasts?" And I said, I think the behind the scenes stuff that we learn,
Yeah,
like, how they manage an injury, how close I was to getting traded, cool stories about, Pat telling stories about like going out to dinner with Russ and like
yeah.
stuff like that we don't get to see. Not even as like I'm not media. Like, me and you are fans to some degree. You're closer to media than I am. Like, but like for us, it's just like we still appreciate the sport. We enjoy the sport. So
Absolutely.
the behind the scenes stuff is good, but it's just like the other stuff, like beefing with other players over a podcast. It's like it's entertaining, I guess, for a certain audience, but it's like at the same
Right.
time, like, can we just get back to basketball? Like, can we just watch basketball? Like, I remember tweeting out like sometime earlier in the season where they were talking about like the people who were like Shannon Sharp. Oh, it was when Shannon Sharp was like beefing with the Memphis players, and I was just like,
Oh yeah.
I remember I tweeted out, I was just like, bro, can we just play basketball? Like, I like, what is going on? Like, this is not even a fan versus Russ thing. This is the Shannon Sharp with the opposing team. Like, get the dude out of here, bro. Like, we're trying to win this game, and we ended up winning that game, which is great. But it's like we might play Memphis in the
Yeah.
first round if we win this game. And Braun, like Braun's gonna call Shannon and be like, "Yo, come, like, come on over." And it's not beyond Braun to do something like that, but or I'm sure Shannon will try and show up for the game itself
Oh,
to
he'll be at
be
all those games. You
to
don't have
be a
to worry about
super
that.
fan or whatever. But it's just like for me, it's like I don't know. I don't mind Draymond. I only watch the clips. I don't listen to it in entirety unless he's actually
Yeah.
talking about basketball or he has like another basketball player that he's talking to. Um, but I don't know. It's just like it's almost removing the like when he does it. It's like, oh, you're sitting here with us talking trash about Rudy Gobert. You're no longer a player anymore when
There
you're
it
doing
is.
it. So that
Yes.
brotherhood is not there the way that it
That's
should be. So I don't
that's
know.
that's the point with it. So like JJ Redick has his podcast as well, right? And JJ Redick has fully moved to this side, right? But he was doing the show while he was still playing. And there
Yeah,
were some really cool tidbits. Like he was talking about how Drew Holiday defends him coming around screens. He's like, Drew Holiday's the best at it. He really like gets into you. And like
yeah,
when he's coming around, like that's really cool stuff. And Draymond has all of that in his bag as well. He has the like one of the best defensive players ever, and he can get into it. But like when players came over, it was supposed to be like they give you a different voice, right? Like Kendrick Perkins has fully moved into media, but
right.
Kendrick Perkins is more like Stephen A. than like
Yeah,
player,
which
right?
is
Like
the format of their show. Like the format
no,
of that show is
for
to be like Stephen A. But go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, 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 you're good. I'm just saying, like, it's not like, oh yeah, when I was a big man, this is how I came over and block shots. It's more of like Kevin Durant has 2 rings because Steph Curry carried him.
Right,
Like
right.
I could get that from I could get that from
Anybody, yeah, yeah,
anybody. Yeah, so
yeah,
that's like my point with that. I think it's really strange, especially Rudy Gobert is like we joke, he's a 3-time defensive player of the year. Like this
yeah,
is not a role player that we're just
yeah.
we're talking about.
He
And
was good.
Draymond's
He's
like,
good at
yeah,
something. Yeah,
no, yeah, 100%. And then Draymond's like, yeah, most of the league thinks he's what Kyle Anderson called him actually, and I actually still think he's a pretty soft guy. I'm like, man, this is a guy who has like legit accolades in this league. So
right.
I don't know. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you. I think yeah that when the players start sounding like, and I've talked to players before,
Mhm.
both notable ones and non-notable ones, and they talk like Draymond does. So it's not anything new. It's not
Right.
like what
Yeah.
Draymond said was a surprise. But to do it publicly is different. You know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
like if I don't get along with somebody, like it's just like even a workplace thing. Like, but if I have to work with you or work against you, that's different. I could maybe Draymond's beef is because he got that Rudy got that defensive player of the year over him, and Draymond was upset about it. Like that second one, I think he got is or the third one, Draymond thought that he should have gotten it, and he was upset about it. But
And be
like,
mad at the voters. Like, what do you
yeah,
mad at the
right,
wrong person? Yeah, Rudy's
right,
not
yeah,
voting for himself. So
yeah. But it's a strange thing, man. It's because you just sound like us, like exactly what you said. Like you just sound like us, and you would think that that wouldn't be what you want to sound like. But look, maybe he just really, really doesn't like him, and that wouldn't be beyond Draymond because there are probably some guys that Draymond genuinely doesn't like,
yeah,
and
I'm
so
sure.
that just might be one of them. But yeah, it's what do you think about player pods? You think like that's like a
I think they're fine. Like I think they add something. Like there's definitely a perspective players have that like no media can have, right? Like
sure
you just can't. You can't have the perspective. Even us who play at our local,
gyms? Yeah,
gyms or LA Fitness, like the perspective I have is gonna be totally different than a person who's a professional doing it every day. And like that, those perspectives are good. I just think like we've kind of lost the plot a little bit of like why those were so good. Like
yeah,
why those were so good. We were getting like all these inter details about the sport and the game and these things that you just can't learn anywhere else. And now it's turned to like, hey, let's go to first take Perkins. Like, what do you think? Like, what's Braun's legacy if he wins this first round matchup?
right, right, yeah.
I'm
They're doing the
like,
thing with
yeah,
Katie right now. Yeah,
yeah. So like, exactly like with KD right now, like if they beat the Clippers or if they lose the Clipper, what's their? I'm like, yeah, that's a good conversation. That's great. I think like player access should give you a little bit more of a like, oh yeah, when I was KD's teammate, this is how he prepared for games, or
yeah,
stuff, just like stuff in terms of that. I'm not saying it has to be all nerdy and X's and O's and stuff. I just think that we've lost kind of the plot of like why those player pods are so great. But yeah, I think like almost a lot of players have one. I was listening before, like
yeah.
Austin Rivers has a podcast. I was like, wow, I didn't even know that till
I don't
recently.
even. Yeah, like when that question got asked, I said, "Look, man, I don't have time to listen to an hour of KD and an hour of Paul George and an hour of Patrick Beverly and an hour of Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'll pick maybe
Yeah,
one, or if the topic is interesting, I'm gonna watch it. Or if like the person being interviewed is interesting, I'll watch
right.
it. But I was like, you guys are not that interesting. Where I want to sit, like, I'm not. I'm sure I'm not that interesting for people to sit here and want to listen to me, for the entire time. So it's like I can't act like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
for
like
sure.
everything Pat says is very interesting to me. Like but it's a nice segue for the topic of preparation, and the Lakers have to be prepared tomorrow. So like,
Hmm.
if you had to pick like two or three things like off the top of your head, like what are the two or three things that the Lakers absolutely have to be prepared for when it comes to the game tomorrow? What are a couple of things that come off the top of your mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to me, I think last game was the first time you see like AD visibly frustrated defensively, right? I thought he was extremely frustrated with his teammates.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, one of the other things that we didn't really touch on, Rudy Gobert being out means that AD has to be on the perimeter, right? So he can't roam in the same way.
Mhm.
And I think that puts a lot of pressure on D'Lo, on Vanderbilt. I mean, Vando and LeBron especially, but the other guards I think to help out. I think rebounding is huge. Minnesota has kicked our ass on the boards when they were
Mhm.
good and we weren't, obviously. But like they've kicked our ass on the rebounds in ways that I think have really hurt us. So that's my biggest thing. And then can we have enough help side defense in that way? Like if
Mhm.
AD's outside covering Karl Anthony Towns, do we have enough rim protection off of that when other guys drive to the rim? Is this a LeBron engaged defensive game? I'm hoping so. Can D'Lo keep some guys in front of him? We were getting blown by every single time. I think we'll stick Vando on Anthony Edwards.
Mhm.
I believe that would be the matchup. But then that means Vando has zero help responsibility. His job is to stay with Anthony Edwards.
Mhm.
That puts a lot of pressure on LeBron, D'Lo, Austin to kind of be low man, to have low man coverage. So where do you go? What do you think about that? I guess in terms of like keeping Minnesota an aggressive team when they're healthy. I think their identity is still being an aggressive team even without those
Yeah.
guys, keeping them off the boards. And but we're giving like layups to the paint too easily.
Mhm. Way
Utah
too
scored
easy.
it way too easily in the paint. We shot the hell out of the three and still barely won that game. But where are you, I guess, on that in terms of keeping Minnesota off the boards and in the paint?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be one of those games where AD is going to get like 15 rebounds because I don't think
Mm.
Cat, if he's assigned to Cat, which he very well may be, unless we decide to put like Braun on him,
Oh
and
yeah,
then have AD, but then AD wouldn't be able to roam off of anybody else because like maybe Kyle Anderson he'd roam off of, but I don't think the Lakers did. I could more see the Lakers putting Braun on Kyle Anderson and then telling Braun you could roam off of him because he's not really a 3-point threat or anything like that. But which is a funny issue because it's for different reasons. Like AD has to cover for Braun also, and you would think that he wouldn't have to do
yeah,
that, but Braun's an old guy, so we know why he has to do that. So yeah, there has to be team rebounding. So like Vando, like it is helpful that we have Vando because Vando does like to crash the glass. He's very, very like he has a very good rebounding motor, very intent on doing that sort of stuff. But it can't just be Vando. Like it has to be Vando, it has to be Braun, it has to be Austin. D'Lo sometimes crashes the glass, but if he can help out too, that's also very helpful too as well. Like if they run pick and roll and Cat is always popping, and then the Lakers have to. I think the other thing is that they have to really communicate with each other defensively as to what they want to do against those actions because Cat probably prefers to pop more than he prefers to roll to the rim. And frankly, if Cat's standing out on the perimeter, we don't really need AD to chase him out there in those actions. Like you could just have somebody
yeah,
press Cat and make him put the ball on the floor and not let him get an easy jump shot off or whatever it's going to be. So um, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be something that's going to be that handoff process. Like
yeah.
Vando is on AD, or sorry, if Vando is on Anthony Edwards, I'm confident that the handoff process in a Anthony Edwards, Carl Anthony Towns pick and roll will be fine because
Are
Vando
you
can just
switching
switch.
that?
I would probably switch it just for the
Okay.
sake of making communication easier between those two players,
Mm,
and not making it confusing. And because you're trading like a 6'9" guy is handing him off to a 6'11" guy or a 7-footer basically in Vando. So I'm
mm,
okay with that, especially if Cat's popping and he's not rolling to the rim. And even then, Vando's a pretty good rebounder. You can box out and grab rebounds. My concern is when it's Mike Conley and Cat because if Dennis is on the floor, like we saw what happened last time, Conley is very crafty. Austin could probably stay with him, but D'Lo can't, and
yeah.
and Brown can't. Like a lot of these guys can't, and so you got to be really shifty. But at the same time, Dennis can't be on Cat on the perimeter. Cat's just going to shoot over him. It's not going to be even
Mm.
close. So they have to be really smart with how they hand these plays off and stuff like that. And so I'll be really curious to see how they adjust. Just with that, but that rebound, I agree with you. Rebounding is probably super important, but that handoff process and pick and roll is going to be really, really important because I mean you can't let a guy like Anthony Edwards get downhill. Like he gets downhill on you,
Yeah.
and he can do he can be devastating. Like just kind of getting to the rim and stuff like that. And we don't want AD in foul trouble either because it's not like we have a ton of backup bigs that can just walk right in and replace him.
Yeah, you're saying Tristan Thompson won't be ready by tomorrow, I'm guessing. No, I think it's interesting. Another so I think this is gonna tell me a lot in terms of we've kind of seen the Rui Vando minutes kind of going
Mm-hmm.
opposite directions. I think Darvin Ham I think Rui's just been better for a little while. Like he's been a better offensive option. You can go to him. He's a little bit more confident in his 3-point shot.
Mhm.
And I think this is a matchup for him. I think he can actually, like, if you play LeBron, Rui, and AD, you can throw Rui on Towns, and
Mhm.
Towns can't really beat him off the dribble. I think that's an adjustment I think I'm interested to see. I don't think Ham will play Rui and Vando together. I think he just has not liked those two on the floor together. But what do you think? I think Rui is a huge part of what we do tomorrow. I think his impact on Towns and being able to space the floor. He's like bailed us out, Vinay, of so many possessions, especially when we're just lollygowing the ball all around, and it gets to Rui with like 5 seconds on the clock, and it's like two dribble Kawhi fadeaway jumper that goes in. Uh, I guess, how do you see his role? His minutes are still a lot lower than I thought, so about 23 minutes a game. He just can't crack 30 minutes for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
I think Braun mentioned that too recently. Like I think in the last post game he mentioned like Austin Reeves and Rui, like when they know that they're getting minutes, or he says Rui plays well with Austin Reeves and with Braun at the same time.
yeah,
And he was saying like Rui's the type of guy where if he knows how many minutes he's getting, which is hilarious because this is exactly what we've said before. Like when he knows how many minutes he's getting, like he knows what sort of flow he has to get into. He can be a productive player, and that has been our number one complaint, like with Darvin Ham, like for a while now. And it's just like, okay, dude, like at some point you have to know which guys you're okay with giving 30 minutes to, or at least 25 minutes to. Like Rui's not a player that should be getting less than half of a game's worth of minutes. Like that seems too low for a guy that like you want to be part of like this forward rotation or this forward tandem that you have. And if the goal is to continue playing, is not to continue, but to have size on the floor, those minutes are too low. And Dennis is coming back tomorrow. Like he's going
yeah,
to play, so he's going to take some of those minutes. So it's like you just said it earlier, they're going to run a 3 guard lineup probably of that Dennis, D'Lo, and
Austin. Hmm.
Austin. Somebody's minutes are getting cut, and I don't know if it's like we can't do a lineup without Braun and AD, like
Yeah,
because those minutes have not been good. So it can't be like Dennis, D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, and like Wenyan. Like, unless we're like up 20 or something like that. But even then, I don't know if you would want to do something like that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
how he carves these minutes out is a big deal. But hey, he's got to play. I agree with you. Like, Rui also does this thing where he like runs out in transition. Like he does a really nice job with runouts
oh
after a
yeah,
miss, and we get so many easy buckets that way. And it's like that's something like the few times where we get like easy buckets that isn't like LeBron going coast to coast. So it's like I I, I would hope that they kind of find some sort of balance, with sort of all this sort of stuff. But like I said, I don't. Dennis is gonna be back tomorrow. I don't even know how many minutes Dennis is gonna get.
you sound so nervous with Dennis coming back
Because
tomorrow.
he was a lock. Remember we did it. I said, dude, there's 4 guys that are a lock to get 30 minutes, and it's gonna be
Oh yeah,
Braun, AD, Dennis, and probably D'Lo. Like I'm not even sure Austin gets 30 minutes because like it wasn't until D'Lo got hurt and Beasley got benched where Austin
mm,
started seeing more than 30 minutes. And I was like, dude, this guy is shooting like 50, 60, 90, and we're not giving him 30
ridiculous.
minutes. Yeah, like 30 minutes a game at least. And it might be just Ham trying to keep them healthy going into the playoffs, but I don't know, man. I am.
His,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous. I don't know how many minutes Dennis is gonna get tomorrow. I don't know what's gonna
Well,
happen in our lineups.
I mean, I think Mike Conley is the matchup, so I think
Yeah,
like we'll see. I think he's gonna be stuck on him. You're just gonna have to kind of live with some of those shots that he takes for the defensive. I think we've missed him defensively. I think the last
for
few,
sure, for
I think
sure.
I do think he would have been nice on like a guy like Chris Dunn. I see George asking about that as well. Chris Dunn, by the way, what a reclamation. He's kind of done with his career. Has played really well for Utah, but Austin's starting to get his minutes up. Vinay, I was looking up as a starter. He's at like 35 minutes a game, which is I think around what you would kind of like for him. I think
Yes,
he's been solid. Again, you mentioned it's like 50, 40, 90. I think it's like 44. I'd like his volume of threes to go up, but he's
has
been
to.
excellent.
Him and
Yeah,
D'Lo, like, dude, shoot the ball. Like, why are you guys shooting
yeah,
4 times? You guys need to be shooting like 10 times a game if you're shooting those percentages. Like, what are your percentages going to come down to? Like 38%? That's still really good.
yeah.
Like, shoot the ball.
I'd rather have. So Austin's at like 44% from three on like 4 attempts a game. I'm like, get
Yeah,
that to like 8 to 9, and maybe it
yeah,
goes down to like 40, 41. Then you're just getting more bang for your buck there. But yeah, like I'm interested. I think Dennis is gonna play. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think Troy and Malik Beasley. Those are the two that I think our minutes are just going to get cut even more, most likely. Troy was starting to play a little bit better, still has some wild kind of sequences, but his threes I think have been important. But Troy and Beasley was shooting well now, had like 2 straight good
Yeah.
shooting games in games that, against very lesser competition. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if like he gets any minutes. But yeah, I think Darvin's gonna have to push the right button almost every game, which that's kind of my thinking here. He's gonna have to go to every game and kind of deal with that game as it is, and that's tough with a rotation as large as it is. Other teams kind of have their 8 and 9. We have like 11, and we just added another big to that, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I'm interested to how he pushes those buttons.
Yeah, I'm on board with you. I think the play-in is, as close to replicating what a playoff game would be like. This is more or less sudden death, even though we do get double elimination. Like, it will be very interesting to see what he cuts his rotation down to,
Yeah.
for this game too, as well, to keep it. And that's what I was saying. Like, they can't come out slow
Hmm.
because Ham may be too, I don't want to say scared, but he may be too hesitant to go deeper into knowing the stakes. He may be too hesitant to go deeper into the rotation. So if in his mind he's like, okay, I'm going to play these 8 guys this game, nobody else, I don't plan on playing anybody else at all, and like we come out super flat or we're down like double digits because for whatever reason, like I don't know if Ham will be like, okay, let me bring Lonnie in, or let me bring Troy in. Let me bring Troy in or Beasley in to get us a hot, you know what I mean? Like to get us
Yeah.
a different look. He may just be like, I'm going to go down with the ship with the guys that I have. That's a wild card that we don't know as Laker fans yet, because like me and you are speculating. He comes from the Budenholzer tree. Like Budenholzer doesn't change what he does. Like he will
Yeah.
stick to his guns and trust his guys to come through in the end, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like if you ask a Bucks fan, there's probably some Bucks fans that would tell you, yeah, if maybe he was a little bit more flexible, we win this series, or there'd be a different situation altogether, outcome to the game. So, um, I'll be very curious to see like what he does with the minutes and stuff like that. And then I think Dennis missed 2 straight games now. So like if
Yeah.
he, what I mean, like if he goes in and he just gives Dennis straight up 30, like Dennis is logging 30 minutes no matter what, then like again, like tomorrow's spaces, win or lose, are going to be like, people are in the space are going to be like, dude, this guy straight up missed 2 games and you gave him 30 minutes off the bat. You know what I mean? Like, and then how does that work? Now, obviously, it's not hypocritical, but it's like then we think about the Mo situation. It's like Mo didn't do anything to lose minutes; he just got hurt, but he can't get
Yeah.
any minutes. So it's just like but that's a whole cluster
Yeah.
F of everything. So did you? I don't know if you answered the question, but what do you think about Austin? Like, do you think he's going to have trouble defending like physical guards? I don't know if he does,
Yeah.
but
I don't know if he has trouble with it. I do think guys kind of go at him, and he
mhm.
tries to draw charges a lot of the
Yeah,
times, and like there's a couple that can go either way, but he's one of the few guards on our team. Like D'Lo's not drawing a charge. Like that's just not. He's not like
no.
D'Lo's not getting in the way of any of that.
I've
You're
seen
having
I've
the
seen
layup.
him miss charges. I've seen him attempt to take a charge and get Euro
Mm.
stepped before, more than I've seen him actually take a charge. But yeah, go ahead.
I've seen him point to like where the charge should be, but like he's not stepping in, dude. There's just no way you're getting an easy layup. But Austin's like, yeah, give me this elbow straight to the face right here. Like,
He
give
he
me this
eats
elbow.
them. He eats them
Oh,
like a champ, dude. He gets
yeah.
elbows so much in the face.
It's almost like he's looking for it. Like you could see some dudes being like, "Are you serious right now? Like you really gonna stand in the way of this?" I think Kelly Olynyk got an and one off of it, but like
Yeah,
Austin took like the brute of it. You could see Kelly Olynyk just being like, "Are you serious, this dude?" Like I'm like, I'm like at the free throw line, and you're like taking in charge. But no, like I think that's kind of his game. He's obviously doesn't have like the brute strength to guard some of these dudes, and
yeah.
that's why I'm so interested. D'Lo defensively, if D'Lo's not hot, like if he's not cooking, I'm
Hmm.
curious like how they go with that. Austin's just playing so well, and if D'Lo's not good, if D'Lo's not aggressive offensively, and like and where we kind of go with the minutes there. But yeah, that's why I think Dennis is gonna play. Like he's our best screen chasing guard.
Yeah, for sure.
So uh, like even fast forwarding to Memphis, I know we'll get into that next week, but like you're probably gonna put Vando on Jaw. So I'm wondering where kind of Dennis goes in that lineup. But or maybe he's on job for some minutes. But yeah, in this one coming up, I think Dennis is getting a lot of minutes. Like he was a big part of our comeback as well in the fourth
Yeah,
quarter
he
in
was.
Minnesota. He does a good job. You don't want him on Towns all the time, but I think Towns is a guy you want to crowd, right? Like if you can
Yeah,
crowd him on the perimeter, Dennis does a good job of that. He gets low. He has a nice center of gravity. He's also just annoying as hell
yeah, for
defensively,
sure.
and I think that.
He might have a
But
better game because Jaden and Rudy are out because he was having a tough time finishing with everybody
mm,
there. Cat's not really a guy who puts a lot of fear in guards when it comes to attacking
mhm.
the rim. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has like a nicer offensive game. But yeah, I agree with you. I think defensively he's definitely needed for sure.
Yeah, he's like our best point of attack, chasing guard, defender, and then yeah, I think like so if it's him, Austin, and D'Lo, I think you kind of survive with the shooting a little bit in those two lineups. If those two guys are gunning, you obviously have Dennis with the ball, and then he can kind of create out of that in ways he can. But yeah, I just think that's a lineup that's going to be our like three guard, kind of like how we were like Dennis, Pat, Bev, and I think if it was Russ or if it was
It was
whoever,
Russ.
it
That's
was
why we
Russ.
were screaming like Russ, stop shooting the ball. But I was like, dude, he's the only person like that's willing to shoot the ball. Somebody's got to shoot it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But like Darvin Love, that like that three guard lineup,
yeah.
right? It was like Pat, Bev, Dennis, Russ. Just an absolutely lineup that doesn't fit together at all.
He's
That's
insane, man. I don't know. If I ever do get media credentials that Ham is still the coach, I would love to just ask him, not even like in a sarcastic or a condescending manner. I just want to know, like, what is it that he sees that makes him feel like he has to do that? Because I've watched a couple Bucks games and they don't run three guard lineups, but they have like
mm,
a one guard, two wingy guard sort of lineups, right? So it's the composition of it's changed, right? Because
uh-huh.
DiVincenzo's gone and they still have Pat Connaughton. So they'll run like Drew, Connaughton, Joe Ingles, or like some closing lineups I've seen them run is like Drew, Jay Crowder, Joe Ingles. So it's like Jay Crowder's not a ball handler. You could kind of say he's the 3-and-D guy for that team, for that side. And Joe Ingles and Drew are like the ball handlers for that team. This is because Chris Middleton's not quite
Yeah.
back just yet. But it's just like I can see that, but at the same time, Jay Crowder is like 6'9", and Joe Ingles
Hmm.
is like 6'9", and Drew is like 6'5", and we don't run it like that. So it's like I'm very confused as to like I can see what he's trying to do, but why do you pick the smaller personnel to do it? Because that's the part that confuses me. But it's we're going to see it, man. We just gotta make it work the best way we can.
Yeah, and I think this has a little bit better of chance because, like we said, those two just can shoot a little bit better. So you can have a little bit more spacing. You have D'Lo and Austin be able to fire threes, and we'll see where LeBron and AD's jumper are there. But yeah, like I'm really interested. You made me think of like on Christmas we had the like we've come so far, but like on Christmas we had like the Austin Reeves at center kind of lineup. Remember we had like the 5 guard lineup against Dallas, and they kind of
So
everyone's like, "What the hell is going on?" Like this was on like Christmas Day, and everyone's
we're
like,
already getting blown out.
"Yeah, we're getting blown out," and like
Yeah,
national TV, so everyone can just make like we're on national TV a lot anyway. But Christmas Day is the NBA's
yeah,
like cornerstone game, and we're like down 20, and Darvin's like, "Yeah, I'm just doing it. I don't care. I'm doing 5 guards right now."
yeah,
And I think Christian Wood was on the floor during
yeah,
this time, like just absolutely getting layups
yeah.
on us. Yeah, so
Our biggest guy was Russ, or like our toughest guy was like Russ on the
yeah,
floor, like at that time, and he
yeah,
was playing power forward for us. It's it's I I don't know how. I mean, I don't really think there is a way you can explain some of the stuff that he does, but like I've tried to figure out what it is. Like I keep thinking sometimes it's like a lot of people have been saying like, oh, he just wants more ball handling on the floor, which might be the case. Okay, I understand if you want to say that, but it's not like we run like this equal opportunity offense when we do have that lineup, right? Like you're only giving it to Dennis majority of the time. The other guys just happen to be guys that can handle the ball for you, but it's like, is that the right thing to do? Like to have three different ball handlers and then just kind of like let them figure it out themselves. Like and it goes to like what we talked about before. Like it's too much freestyling. You have
yeah,
too many cooks on the court, and that doesn't work in the long run when it comes to stuff, and it can cause issues because Dennis comes down, misses 2 shots. D'Lo comes down, misses a three. Austin comes down, doesn't get a layup, or doesn't get the foul call or something like that, and misses a midi. That's 4 or 5 straight shots we've already missed, and
Yeah.
nobody has built a rhythm. Rui hasn't touched the ball. Wenyan hasn't touched the ball. So it's like, and by then Lakers Twitter is already, the avalanche is already starting. What the hell is Darvin Ham doing? So Ronnie had a question here
Well,
from yeah, go
right
ahead.
before we get to that, I just want to say, like, I think part of that also. So if you look at our roster before we started the season, it was very clear that we were guard heavy, right? We had like 8
Yeah,
guards. I think a trade was in mind, right? I think we spoke about this. They had a trade in mind that was supposed to happen, didn't happen. So we just went into the season with way more guards than we should have.
yeah,
I think JTA was supposed to be a big part of our team, right? Like he was like convinced to come here kind of thing. JTA was, and then it was very clear that Max Christie was better than JTA like 2 weeks
yeah.
in, and that's a problem for your roster.
Hmm.
That's great that Max Christie is good. Your 46 pick should not be better than the guy that's supposed to be your starting
Yeah,
small forward. We realized that Damian Jones, aside from what he did a couple of games ago, was just not a playable center, right?
a big
So I
yeah.
think that's kind of, yeah. So that really cuts you down to a very small rotation. And then Darvin Ham is just kind of susceptible to play small anyway. So I think that was part of it too. I was just remembering like JTA was supposed to be our starting small forward, and then
Hmm.
like he was
Like a
shooting like 10.
playmaking forward. Yeah,
Yeah, like kind of what was the term that
Draymond-esque
we
role. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Kind of like where he just like moves the ball, but he's shooting like 10% from 3. So like that that was gone very
yeah,
quick.
yeah,
That was over really quick. So yeah,
yeah.
just to put a bow on that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's like I said, I think we said last time. Like it's been like 5 different seasons in a
Dude,
single season right now.
yeah.
Iterations of this team too, and we've already played so many different starting lineups, which has been crazy in itself. So Ronnie Price from State Farm MVP. It looks like the clever YouTube names. He had a question. He said, "I know you talked about 3 guard lineups, but if Dennis doesn't have it, his suggestion is I'd want to see a bigger, faster, stronger lineup, which is playing Rui, Vando, LBJ, Braun, AD. Keep 3 of those guys out there and beat them up." What do you think about them playing like a big lineup like that?
This is what I've been proposed. I would love that. Like I think those guys all play different positions. Maybe
Hmm.
Rui and LeBron kind of are a little similar, but I think Vando's a 3, Bron is a 4, LeBron's AD's a 5. You can kind of play all those guys together, but I like that. LeBron, and AD are already starting, right? So you're basically just adding Rui into that group. I think if you can match up speed wise, I don't see why not. Like why not go big instead of trying to force Beasley and Troy Brown minutes? Just
Sure.
go into more of a bigger lineup there. You obviously worry about the speed. Maybe you start maybe Dennis or Austin or D'Lo's kind of with them, but I like it. I've been for it. We haven't really gone to it at all. I don't think Vinay, Rui, Vandal, LeBron, and AD have they played a minute together? I'm not
I
even
don't know. I'd have to look at the lineups, but I can't
yeah,
imagine like that
but
lineup.
mhm,
That lineup, I would say like LeBron would basically be the point guard for that lineup. So you might as well just
that's a good point.
put
Mm,
Austin or somebody like that, just a second ball on. Or you could obviously D'Lo would probably be the hierarchy of things. If it's not D'Lo, then it'll probably be Austin. But like
right.
that's a pretty versatile lineup. If you have LeBron at point guard bringing it up, and then you have Austin flanking one side, Rui flanking the other, Vando and AD, helping each other out and stuff like that. That's a lot of size. That's a lot of size in transition, and we know Rui
Yeah,
and Austin can get out in transition, so can LeBron and stuff like that. So it's I wouldn't mind it, especially if it's like a half court game where it's like just a
yeah,
defensive struggle, like a big pain. You just got to match up really well because like Rui can't guard usually the guys that Vando would be able to guard, and Vando probably can't guard the guys that Rui would be good at guarding. So you have to be really smart with your defensive assignments. But I like to see it for sure.
yeah, and we were talking about it all the time. Like you just, I can't. So I'm looking at NBA.com by the way, and I don't even see any Vando Rui two-man lineups at all. Or maybe there's just not enough data for it, but
Mhm.
I don't see it on there. But yeah, like so if in that lineup, I guess if LeBron's your point guard, then you'd want another shooter out there, right? And we talked about this a lot. You don't want Dennis out with those type of lineups, right? 'Cause you have Dennis, Vando, AD. It shrinks your floor
Too much, not
to
enough shooting. Yeah.
yeah, your floor is shrunk to the point where it's gonna make life really tough for LeBron. Do you think LeBron's gonna step into now? Because obviously all season he's kind of been off the ball, kind of this
Mhm.
3-point shooter. He's kind of been more of a screener in some senses, but do you think he shifts back into like playoff LeBron gets played out in terms of like, talk shows and stuff. But I think what playoff LeBron really means is I walk the ball up every time. I run the offense. I say where the ball goes to every time. Or are we enough of a guard heavy team now to where like he's still going to be off the ball? You think? Do you think that switch? We talked about the switch in terms of defensively, but like his offensive switch to be like, yeah, now every play goes through me. Like, do you see that coming now? Is that maybe a first round thing? I'm interested to see if that happens because we've been so. This is the first time really, maybe since what Kyrie, where he's like he has two obviously in the starting lineup now, but another ball handler. Where he's just like, here's the ball every time, and I can go run off the ball. I'm interested to see like if he goes back to that or not, or if we live in this still D'Lo Austin kind of. You talked about it. It's not really a democratic offensive system. It's more it's more guard heavy. Kind of the guards get the first and second right to the shot there. So what do you think about that? Where LeBron's kind of shift into more of an on ball player.
Yeah, I would buy that. Like I would guess that if he doesn't do it like very exclusively, where he's like consistently
Mm-hmm.
bring it up, I think he's going to be like that's definitely going to increase. Like the amount of if when he was on the court, let's just throw random numbers out. If he was only on top of the ball in the regular season for about 60% of those possessions that he was on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that number is probably going to go closer to 80% now, or like 75 to 80%. And then that'll vary, right? So it'll be like in the fourth quarter, it's probably like that overtime was all LeBron. The overtime against
Yeah.
Jazz, like that was all LeBron the entire time. And even this last Jazz game that we played was all LeBron the entire fourth quarter, basically, to close that game out. So I think situationally, it might still be a little bit different. When Russ was here, that second shift that used to get us the lead back and stuff like that, that was Russ running the show and LeBron playing off of him and just doing it like
Mm.
just being a scoring machine, like just eating off of all the extra looks and stuff. But now Russ is gone, so it's going to be Austin or it's going to be Dennis. I don't know if Braun is going to just play off of those guys. Like I think Braun is
Yeah.
probably going to take the ball and say, "I'm going to do this, and you guys play off of me a little bit more." Especially Dennis, because Dennis is not necessarily the great, the playmaker that we think. Um, but I could see it. Like this would be the time for him to do it. Honestly, like this is the
Yeah.
time for him to be who he is. If we're trying to stay alive in the regular season or be competitive in the regular season, so that we can keep him fresh for this. His foot's still compromised. We know that, but this would be the time that I would expect him to do it. I think we'll see that.
Who do you think they put on LeBron for this playing game? I don't think they want Anthony Edwards on him
No, I
full
don't think
time,
they.
right? That
No.
like I think that'd be a really tough matchup for him. Maybe he's young enough to where he's like, just give me the LeBron matchup, and I'm just gonna still drop my 25. I think Edwards is built kind of that way, but I'm
Yeah.
interested who they throw on him. Kyle Anderson maybe does a good job kind of being strong with him, but he doesn't really have the foot speed. Kyle
Yeah.
Anderson, by the way, is gonna have 3 threes in 2 minutes. I just know it. I just know Kyle Anderson is gonna have 3 threes. It's gonna be
UCLA.
not. Yeah, it's gonna be 9-2, and we're gonna be like, can we guard Kyle Anderson? And LeBron's gonna be like, nah,
Yeah.
guard him in the third quarter.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like
Shout out
nine.
Kyle Anderson. Shout out Tony Parker, who used to play at UCLA.
Mm,
That's his guy. I always make fun of
mm.
him. Make fun of he's buddies with Kyle Anderson. And I always send him Kyle Anderson highlights. I'll be like, dude, this guy plays like a 40-year-old at a pickup game with the high school players. Like I don't understand how he's able to be effective. He just always laughs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He
He's
has
gonna
some.
have a game, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah. Like who do you think they put on LeBron there? I don't even know who else would start. Maybe Jaden Noel. I think is a kind of big guard. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I think they probably will put Kyle on LeBron,
Okay.
only because I don't think they have anybody with good enough size to put on LeBron. To be honest, like I'm trying to think of like
Yeah.
because like they could either do that or they could do the thing that the Warriors do, which is like they intentionally played Draymond at center. Like the last time we played him, I think they played Draymond at center, and the
Mm-hmm.
entire goal of that team was to play as fast as possible so that
Mm.
AD couldn't be like effective. But I think Bubby actually had a good suggestion that the backup that they have is Torian
Torian
Prince.
Prince.
What we may see Torian Prince on Braun.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, they may have. That might just be the best idea. That might be the matchup.
Yeah,
That
he might start, right? I mean,
yeah.
he could maybe start tomorrow. Torian Prince also didn't look like he was trying to be peacemaker, and that was kind of more of in the
It's just standing there watching them do it. Yeah,
and then
I go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say no. He got his own little shove in on Rudy Gobert as well. So it was very very interesting to watch the team dynamics of them kind of come out. But no, that's a really good point. That's a good guy to think. Torian Prince also very erratic shooter, can be hot or can be
Yeah,
cold. It's a very so you got to you got to watch out for him as well. But that's a good point. Prince is probably the choice there, I guess. Before they, I'm guessing Edwards kind of gets to him in the fourth quarter, but
yeah,
yeah, Torian Prince is probably the answer there.
yeah. So I've got a question from the Twitter feed from Sky Blue Seawall. Do you think we have developed a true closing lineup yet, or will it vary game to game? Which is a very good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's gonna vary. I don't think we've developed. Well, we haven't had the continuity to develop one, right? I mean, D'Lo's been out, LeBron's been out. So I mean, I think it's been like 7, 8 games since we got those guys. D'Lo's been in and out. Even when he came back, he's been in and out. So I don't think we've actually brought one. Like we were, Austin was closing games, Dennis was closing games. I don't think, but Vinay, my prediction though is those three guards and LeBron and AD are going to close a lot of games. I just think that's maybe I'm not saying contracts get into that, but I mean you just look at it from two of those guys who we need to re-sign this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy we'll see, and then LeBron and AD. I think those are the guys that are going to close a lot. But what do you think? Have we built a closing lineup? I think
Not at
different
all.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna. I think it's gonna be like. I think Ham has said it once before. It's like, or I think Braun has said it before. But it was actually when Russ was on the team and AD was out. He like jokingly
Mm,
said he's just like because they're talking about like inconsistent lineups to finish
mm,
the during that 20 game stretch when AD was out. Like he was just like, we're trying to figure it out with whoever we have available. And he says I remember Braun saying like most nights it's going to be me, Russ, and whatever three guys are playing well next to us. Like that's who we're going to be closing the game out. And I was just like, how is that any different than what we have going on? Right, it's going to be Braun, AD, and whichever three guys are playing well, and that may be Austin, that may be Dennis. Dennis
yeah.
seems to be in that closing lineup very often because of the defensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why he's like that. Then it's just really, who the other two guys are. Might be Beasley one night. It'd probably be D'Lo, just because D'Lo is another guy who can make
Yeah.
shots and create for others. But I think you're right. I think your speculation is pretty close, man. Like it's probably going to be those three guards, unless it's like an extraordinary, like Rui's having an extraordinary game, or they really need Vando out there for defense, and like Braun and AD are rolling, so they'll just have Dennis and Vando playing defense on whoever they got to play defense on. But I don't know. It's a great question. I don't think we have one yet. I definitely don't know who we're going to close with for sure every night.
Yeah, and Rui's also closed a good amount of games now as well. There's fourth quarters where Vanderbilt just doesn't come back in the game because
Yeah.
Rui's just rolling. Rui, by the way, is so efficient. You look at his numbers; he's like 7 for 11 in 18 minutes, and he's like 10 for 14 in like 22 minutes. His efficiency is nuts. But I was just checking really quick. So Vando and Rui, by the way, 15 games together. They've played 50 minutes, so almost nothing. Like very
Nothing. Yeah.
few. Yeah. The three guard lineup, D'Lo, Dennis, and Austin, almost 100 minutes in 11 games. They've actually run teams off. I think the Pelicans game might have skewed this a little bit. I think because we blew them out in that one, but like a plus 40 net rating in 100 minutes. So hard to tell exactly the sample, but I think yeah, if they're healthy, I think they're gonna play together. But yeah, the Vando Rui, I don't think that's an experiment we're gonna see a lot. So if we need one of them out there, I think Ham's gonna go with let's do LeBron and AD as our back line, and then three guards to kind of complement them and go from there. Unless there's like a big wing on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, look at going forward, Vinay. I mean, let's say we beat this team. I guess against Memphis, there's Desmond Bain. I guess you gotta account for and stuff like that. So but this is just gonna be, I think, game to game. Like I don't think we're gonna have the chance to really build a continuity type of closing five. Maybe the playoffs changes this if you get
Mm-hmm.
if you get some success. But I think this is going to be just in every game, kind of who's playing well. That's a dangerous way to go into these situations. Like have to read and react every single time to
Yeah.
and not have a most teams have like one spot open, right? Usually it's like you have four guys who close and there's like one guy who can kind of fill in. But we're gonna have like three guys who uh who who might not close. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking at cleaning the glass right now, and
Mm,
I'm looking at just opponent half court, looking at the half court defense, and believe it or not, behind Anthony Davis, the person who subtracts the most points from the opposing team's half court offense is Anthony
mm,
Davis at -7. Coming in
yeah,
second is Rui Hachimura at -4. So, like if you, from what it looks like, if you deploy him on the right guys in the half court when the game is slowed down, it might make more sense for Rui to get those minutes. That might be why we're seeing that shift a little bit more towards Rui in the second halves, or just, Vando gets that initial shift, or now he's becoming a little bit. It seems like Dennis and Vando are being relegated a little bit more to like these specialist roles,
yeah,
because they're extraordinarily good defensively, but you don't want to lean on them too much for offense. Like Dennis, I can tell you right now, has shot horrendously since the trade deadline,
oh,
and
it's been
that
awful.
that
Yeah,
yeah, it's been genuinely bad. Like to the point where if his name was rhymed with Russell Westbrook, like you would want him off the team. Like his shooting splits have been really bad, but he's a very good defender, and so I understand why he's part of it. And so his, like, I think, again, another layer of like how is it that Ham looks at the game and what is he going to do? Like if these guys are clearly defensive and maybe a little bit more specialists, we have to deploy them in that manner. They can't be
yeah,
guys that are, you're locked in for 30 minutes, 35 minutes no matter what. Like cuz that doesn't work. Then you got to make sure everything around them like offsets anything that we lose on offense. And so it'll be really interesting to see. Vando more than Dennis. I won't say that Dennis is as bad offensively as Vando. Dennis is still a very good half court offensive player. In transition, he's super fast still too. So he's helpful in that manner.
yeah. And so like if you look at some of the games where we had like playoff type, I think in Chicago, right? The game in Chicago, that was a big game. Dennis played like 21 minutes. Minnesota was 23 minutes on the road. And then the Clipper game only 13 minutes. So I think there's room there to maybe he might, I just think like this is a matchup kind of dependent thing. If they have a guard that's cooking, I think he'll play more.
Mhm.
So but I have a comp for Rui that I'm gonna ask you because I think I forgot where I heard this and I think I was just thinking about it. There's a player on the title team that gets lost a lot. The other guys kind of get glorified deservedly, right? KCP was a starting two guard. Kuzma came in off the bench, was really good. And those are the guys we kind of talk about. Rondo, even playoff Rondo. But I think Markieff Morris was a really interesting kind of player, right? During our
Mhm.
run, was able to start next to AD, was able to space as well, and was also rugged and physical, right?
Mhm.
I think that's like the Rui. I think Rui's a better offensive player than
For
Markieff
sure.
Morris, but they even have similar go-to shots. Remember Markieff Morris would just have this like his brother's better at this, but like he has this little like you can throw it to him in the post and he's able to like
Yeah.
get a shot
The
in
free
that
throw line
way.
mid range area. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Rui's more fluid with it, and he's just a talent. He's a more talented player. But
Yeah. For
I
sure.
think I was thinking about the comp for them because I think this team has kind of missed a rugged forward that can play next to Bron and AD. And I think Rui's kind of stepping into that role, and he gives you all this other stuff too. He's super athletic, can block the hell out of the ball at the rim. He's better defensively now. He's rebounding the basketball. But I think that's a comp, and I'm wondering if that's something we can unlock going to the playoffs. So, yeah, what do you think about
Yeah.
that as a comp?
Yeah, like if I think if you run lineups, like if you run lineups of Braun, Rui, and AD, like you could still have a little bit level of, like, same thing with Vando to some degree. Like you could still have a level of
Yeah.
confidence that even if you don't get like elite backline protection, you'll get something. Like you
Hmm.
won't get a free line, and like the rebounding will be there. Like because Rui will
Yeah.
crash the glass, he won't. I don't know if he has small hands or what it is, but like sometimes he kind of loses the ball after he gets the rebound. Like it's very easy to strip him.
Mm.
But or maybe he has like really soft hands. That's what it is. It's like good on offense, but on defense it can be defensive rebounding makes it easy for people to swipe the ball out of your hands. But like he does help in that regards. That's why we have to be tactical with how we use it. Like teams play lineups. Like if we draw Memphis in the first round, and they're playing, they're gonna play Triple J, and they're gonna probably start Xavier Tillman, but they're gonna have
Yeah,
guys like Santi Aldama or whoever come off the bench for them because Brandon Clark is gone. Like
right.
Rui can probably match up against a guy like him because that guy's not a post player, and he's rugged enough to guard a guy like that. And we might be able to squeeze out some minutes where it's okay if AD has to chase Triple J out on like the free throw line or something like
Mm,
that, or pick and pop stuff, and Braun is stuck out on the perimeter guarding somebody else or whatever it is. So we just have to be really tactical, and I think we really have to give him direction. Rui seems like a guy who needs direction. Like
yeah,
like, I think somebody said recently, I think even Braun said recently, like Rui's like asking questions. He's trying to figure out how to play off of me and off of AD and be effective. And it's just like, yeah, like somebody has to tell him what to do because he can't figure that out by himself. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Like tomorrow's going to be a great example of that. Like if
yeah.
we play that big lineup again, like is Rui going to guard Cat? Is Rui going to guard somebody else? Like how is he going to be effective in those situations? So it'll be very important for us
Yeah,
to make that work.
yeah, and I just think being intentional with it, right? There's a lot of times where like Rui's like, "Where do I go?" and he gets the ball with like 8 seconds left on the shot clock. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, "Okay, well, let me just go make a shot." He had a ridiculous shot yesterday. I posted. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a double clutch fadeaway over like Damian Jones. It was just ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I'm so interested how the intentionality that we can bring into these games. But this is game like it's all over. You win tomorrow, you get a clean slate. You know what I mean? Everyone's 0-0.
everyone's 0-0. Yeah.
Yeah, your record is what it is. So I'm excited, man. It's playoff basketball for the first time in like 2 years. It's
Yeah.
it's it's nice.
And that series is going to be hell, dude. Like if we win tomorrow and we draw Memphis, like again, like I don't think people like if you're watching this, like I don't think people understand. Memphis wants to embarrass us. Like that, they are a team that very much knows how vocal the Lakers fan base is on social media. Not only that, but like we have had multiple Memphis players be outspoken about like LeBron and like the Lakers in general. And whenever they come to LA, like they try to send a message.
Oh yeah,
This is not like other this is not the random role player goes off against us. This is no, their stars want to embarrass us as much as they possibly can. And so that series is going to be comedy just
do,
because just because I know it's going to be funny.
do you remember last year? Carl Anthony Towns was like, I think we played them in Minnesota, and they had him mic'd up, and he was just screaming all these things.
It's so
He's like,
funny that yeah.
I'm 10 toes down, and it's like it was just ridiculous stuff. I think we were shorthanded too. I think AD got
Yeah.
hurt before the half, but he was just screaming these things,
Yeah.
and he was
He was
mic'd up.
literally looking down into the mic and
Yeah,
screaming. I was just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what are
yeah,
you doing, bro?
yeah. He's like, I'm 10 toes down, and like, no way, no way. And then he was kind of doing all these things. Memphis is like double that, by the
The
way. Like, if
worst, even worse. Yeah.
people need to be like, if you thought Towns and Beverly a little bit last year, right, against Beverly when he was on Minnesota, Memphis is like triple that. Like
Yeah.
they go up by 20 and they dance on your grave.
Yeah.
Jaw literally does the giddy, and he like uh Dylan Brooks. If you think what Towns was doing was like
Yeah.
loud, wait till Memphis gets up 20.
Yeah.
Like that's this you're gonna see some crazy stuff. So
And,
yeah,
and, and
Memphis.
they're not the type of team to just be like, oh, we're up 20, we're cool. Like they're like, no,
No,
let's get this to 30 and let's get this to 40. Like that's what they want to do.
yeah, they're gonna be it's gonna be a fun. But I mean, no, it's kind of poetic. LeBron's like, remember a couple years ago, LeBron was like, be humble, or he was telling I
Yeah.
forgot
Yeah.
he was telling like Desmond Bain, who was having a great game.
Yeah.
Bain wasn't even saying much. I don't think LeBron was just annoyed at the whole game. I think we
Yeah.
were just down for no reason. He's just like, you're not playing basketball anymore. Desmond Bain was like, all I said was and one. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
he's just like it was fun. So
I'm hoping that end of the game Utah game clip with LeBron doing this thing doesn't come back to haunt us because I'm almost positive the social media manager. I don't know if you follow the Memphis Grizzlies like their social media account.
very petty. Yeah.
Very petty. Like I know they're gonna put a big fat L. Like the moment we lose a game to them, they're gonna play that clip 100%. and have that photoshopped on there. But yeah, that I mean, we'll take it one game at a time. Playing games tomorrow.
Yep.
Some people, Rudy's out, Jaden's out, Karl Anthony Towns is questionable, but we expect him to play. They are a different team defensively, but they're still deadly in a different
Yeah.
way, and the Lakers can't take them for granted. Did you have anything else, like any other thoughts, like just about the game tomorrow, or anything that just comes to mind?
Yeah, I think that's it. I guess my last conspiracy thing. Would they rest Towns tomorrow and just get ready? They wouldn't do that, right? What do you
I don't think so. I don't think
No,
so.
right? Okay.
But then why
I
would
know
you fight? Why would you fight so hard to win the game in the first place if you're just going to tank it just to go into a sudden death the very next game?
Yeah, that's true. I'm just thinking because they must feel like the world was just dropped on them. Like I,
Could be.
I can't imagine. Like and just they're just like let's. But no, they probably will play.
The better question is, do they bring Rudy back if they lose the game? Do they bring Rudy back for the second game?
Oh God, dude, what an insane scenario. I
Yeah.
just look if Anthony Davis, because remember AD like had a scuffle with Dwight Howard.
Yeah,
If there was a playing game next game, Anthony Davis is playing the playing game. Like
for
like
sure. For sure.
there's no you're staying home to what playing game. Like give me consequences later. Like let me play this game. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that says a lot about how they view Gobert in a strange way, like how the organization does, which is strange for what they
Yeah.
gave up for him. But yeah, I think it's a very fascinating situation in Memphis. I mean, in
Yeah.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, but tomorrow, big game. We win it. We're in the playoffs. We lose it, and it's going to be pandemonium on the timeline. I mean, it's going to be pandemonium on the timeline. I'm sure there's going to be like a 5-minute stretch where we play really bad basketball. That's all anybody's
Mhm.
going to be talking about, after the game. But in the end, we win the game. That's what matters. Hopefully, we see. You and I both agree. Hopefully, we see stars set the tone and
Yeah.
don't take it very lightly. So the role players can come in and fill the gaps. I really don't have any other thoughts outside of that. Just looking forward to the game and hopefully, celebrating with the rest of the Laker fans in a win. But as always, Raj, this was awesome. This is now, I think, the third or fourth time that we've done this. So I've enjoyed it a
Yeah.
lot. Hopefully, the folks that are watching on YouTube, folks that are watching on Twitter, you guys enjoy it. This will get uploaded on the podcast. I'll upload it so people can hear the audio that weren't able to watch the live stream. As always, we appreciate the support. If you want to you want to subscribe to the YouTube, or just throw us both follows. If you don't already follow us, go ahead and do that. But we always appreciate the support, and we always love talking Lakers basketball. So Raj, as always, this was a lot of fun, and this was the episode of Lakers Detailed. We'll see
Lakers
you in the next one.
detailed.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.